Previously, on the couch, Seth Lewis was telling a story from his childhood about a world called Tottin. In it, a king by the name of Armstrong had just had a son by the name of Marlowe. And when a black-robed creature burnt down the field of Bengolf, Armstrong went off to investigate what was the reason behind this. And along the way he encountered a crone, and chased the crone into a cave. And the crone and Armstrong both ran into a large troll which ate the crone. And now Armstrong was pitted against this great monster, and we shall see who wins this fight. This is the second part of the Journal of Rick, The Three Perils.
The Couch presents The Journal of Rick, The Three Perils, Part 2. A book written when I was a kid, featuring Seth Lewis.
Okay, so before I begin, I have a few notes to make about last week's episode. First off, I know I might have laughed a few times. This is really my first read-through. I wanted it to be like a new experience even for me. And second off, it was a little long. It almost went over the time limit, but I'm going to try to make this one a little bit shorter, make it a little easier for you all. I got to admit, there's a lot of pages in this, so it would take us a very long time to read it all if we are going to read it all, which I'm not sure. But we'll see after this episode. We'll see how it feels. But let's just hop right into it. Okay. The troll had no hair, but did have blue light eyes and gray skin. It was tall as a large tree. It was fat, about 1,000,000 pounds. It felt both evil and hungry. It was stupid and greedy and strong, and had good hearing. Compared to the troll, Armstrong was only an ant. He had a chain attached to his leg. The troll roared evilly. In one on his shoulder hung a large club, which he easily grabbed and put it over his head, ready to hit him hard. Armstrong wasn't sure what he should do. He knew trolls hated arrows, but a sword was useless against a troll. He shot at least 3 arrows into the troll's head. Of course, he had to do this fast. Of course, the troll tried to smack Armstrong, but every time he tried, Armstrong moved out of the way quickly. But Armstrong was getting tired, and he found it getting harder and harder to jump, duck, and roll. He then saw something he hadn't noticed before. A golden brick castle with a wooden roof and a long big gold belt with red jewels on it. On the top was a stick with a red ruby on top. A wooden gate with jewels on both sides, and a large red ruby on the top of the gate. He then looked at the stairs. Looked almost impossible to climb, high and jagged. But while he was thinking, he tripped over a rock. He had to roll to not get smashed by the troll's club. He rolled, quickly, all the way to the stairs, then got up. The first step was too large, and he couldn't climb it. Suddenly the troll jumped at him. Armstrong at first thought he was going to die, but at the last second his chain and he fell down to the floor. The troll head was close to Armstrong that his hand could have grabbed him, but like all trolls, he was stupid. Armstrong blasted the sword into the troll's head. This, of course, did not hurt the troll at all. Armstrong climbed to the top of the troll's head with a bloody sword in his hand. As he climbed up the stairs, he heard a loud crack. The troll had broken its chain. He soon reached the top of the stairs, but soon there was a great bump. The troll was hitting the stairs with his club. It was such a bump that Armstrong fell off. He quickly grabbed onto the ledge. His hands were now bleeding. Armstrong didn't know what to do. He looked down. The club was only an inch away from his foot and was hitting the wall like mad. Then Armstrong had an idea. When the club was only a few inches from his feet, he jumped on it and kept his balance. When it hit the wall, he jumped up the top of the stairs. The troll roared with anger, seeing he had been outsmarted, which happens quite often. Armstrong didn't know why he did what he did, but he was later on glad he did. He put an arrow on the bow and shot at the ceiling. He hit a rope holding some rocks. Trolls usually don't do this, but crones do it sometimes for something to do. Troll looked up at the arrow flying, and when the rocks fell, instead of getting out of the way, he just stared in amazement. And he said one of the 3 words most trolls can say. Huh. Then all the rocks fell on top of the troll. The other 2 words are og and raw. Some say they can say roar, but if you know troll language, you know that raw means roar, meaning no, while og means ooh, meaning disgusting or gross, depending on the sound. Also, it could mean he was hungry. Armstrong opened the gate and walked in. If he had stayed a little, he would have saw an arm coming out of the rocks. Armstrong shut the gate behind him and took a look at the room. His mouth dropped in amazement. It was completely filled with treasure. There was gold that shined like the sun, diamonds of glittering white, rubies as red as berries, silver of gray. They shine like a Christmas tree. It wasn't a very big room, but there was a complete mountain of treasure. One thing caught his eye. It was a bracelet. It was made of gold and almost seemed to fit on any hand, but it would have to have the right size of his hand. But it would have been the perfect fit for Armstrong's hand. It was a little dusty, but it wasn't that bad. Armstrong walked over to it and touched it. It was smooth and had only a couple of small scratches, though not easily seen, for usually inside it or on the thinner part. He looked at it. He didn't really know why, but he didn't want to put it on. He didn't feel like it and saw no reason why he should put it on. Suddenly he heard shouting and screaming. Sounded like crones. Armstrong, scared, quickly put the bracelet on his backpack and slowly went towards the wooden gate, which was in this treasure room, and looked through a crack in it. A complete army of crones and inquisitors were in a sort of hole which you could see out of, if you climbed up a narrow staircases. Torches were lit everywhere, making it look kind of spooky. There were spider webs of rugs, there were human skulls everywhere, and their bones from their bodies. There was a stage, and on the stage was a crone holding a sword next to a small bed, and on the bed was a beautiful sword. Suddenly the crone spoke. "Crones and Quisitins and crones, I'm happy to say that our master has came back and is ready to rule all of Tottin." The crones cheered, but the Quisitins just stood silent. Blue Blue died long ago by Rick Thomas, son of Senor Thomas, they said. But it is a lie. Blue had just diminished and thought to be dead. But he has been alive for years. Suddenly there came a sound of a drum, loud and angry. Everyone stared at the black tunnel next to the crone. A sudden fire came, and out came a creature, clothed in all black, beating a drum. The crones walked over to him and kneeled with the sword in his hand stretched. Blue took the sword and looked at it. It had a small shine to it. Slowly Blue raised his hand, a green flash of light which killed the leader of the Quisitins. The others stood back. "Any more arguments, and one who started it will find his head chopped off, and his skin used for a coat," said Blue. The Quisitins looked worried and remained silent. "Good. As everyone knows, long ago, there was a great battle of Rim's army and my own army. It was fought in Horizon Deep, a place well known to all. It is said that if the four hornblowers, the ancient ghost of men, were to blow their horns in the tune of this ancient song, "Horns blow, drums beat, when war is brought too near. Songs are sung and crowns are put on its true keen. And as death comes, the end may come, but still there is a chance for victory to still be singed and Tottin once again." Sadly, victory is what happened for them. Anyways, Windblow, the bracelet of power, to bring forever living life and great strength and even more power to anyone who wears it. This bracelet was not for me, but for my father Morrow, lord of the cloud creatures, and will soon be lord of Tottin. Yes, 4 troops leaded by 4 leaders, Pinkala, Rim, Andra, and Zuika. The first wave came from Zuika, whose brother was Onda. The army launched against his. The hornblowers soon came. I got up on the great stone Asgilath, and holded up my sword Pinalath, which was also needed to get the bracelet. The hornblower one blowed his horn. The second one started to fight Zuika, the hornblower. In the end won. At this time Onda had already took out his troops. Rim had also. Onda witnessed Zuika's death and fought against the hornblower. In the end, he won. At this time Onda had already took out his troops. Rim had also. Onda witnessed Zuika's death and fought against the hornblowers. He too died. By then the other 2 hornblowers had blew their horns and were waiting for the 4th hornblower. It was then that my father came. He for a long time, wanted to be immortal, for it is said that only a mortal will have the power to rule all, and the bracelet can turn you into one if you aren't already one. The bracelet was lowering to the land. He could almost reach it. The last hornblower blowed his horn. Rim, seeing his best friend die, grabbed Onda's sword. Just then Pinkala brought out his army. Pinkala killed the leader of the trolls. Rim suddenly killed the hornblower. And just as my father, whose name is Morrow, as we all know, had almost put in it, or on, his hand. But then Rim jumped out of nowhere and cut off his hand. Morrow the diminished, not died, just diminished. Without all 4 of the hornblowers, the spell would not work. I jumped off the stone just in time, for then a powerful electrical circle hit into it. Then me and Rim fought a sword fight. He slashed me and I fell into the electric circle and was thought to be dead. Anyway, the place exploded. Rim jumped onto his horse. He had to make it to the rock, or at least one of his men, or else Tottin would end forever. An explosion that would destroy any man walking. He grabbed Pinkala, who was bragging about the troll. The explosion was getting closer to them. The horse galloped like crazy now. Suddenly the horse did. He got Rim the man and Pinkala the elf to the rocks. Many of his men had made it there. Tottin was saved. After the explosion was finished, the men took all the dead men's bodies that hadn't been destroyed. It was then that Rim found the bracelet. And I think that would be a good place to end off. What do you all think will happen? Do you think Armstrong's going to get caught? He's still hiding behind this gate listening to this story. Do you think that Armstrong will be able to escape? What do you think happened to the troll? He reached his hand out of those stones, so maybe we'll be seeing him later. You'll just have to wait and see. If there is a part 3, depends on views. We'll see, though. If enough of you like it, I'll make a sequel.